Alright guys, so we are going to start today on the last section in chapter 2, which is also our third unit, so yay, we're almost done this unit. This is solving inequalities. You have your notes in front of you. What I want to do is I want to go through some of the notes as like I normally do, and hopefully you have them printed, you were able to print them out, or you can write them on in your notepad, whatever. And we'll just go ahead and do some example problems. We're going to do graphing and writing the answer in interval notation, and we're also going to do absolute value inequalities. We didn't talk a lot about absolute values in the last section. I decided to skip those, but I think that you can handle inequalities. So there are two parts to these answers, these inequalities. You're going to graph it, and you're going to write the answer in interval notation. Now, remember with inequalities, when you what do you do with inequalities? You need to switch the inequality when you divide or multiply by a negative. Okay? Just trying to get your skills up. This is another basic skill that I think that you guys should be able to do. All right, so let's take a look at number 1. You have an inequality. It says x less than or equal to 3. Okay. So graphing, we have the point 3 on a number line. And of course we are going to fill in to the left of that number line. So we're going to just shade in this way. Okay. And of course we do have a closed circle here because it does say equal to. Okay. Now, what does that look like with a bracket? Okay. Well, this is our number line, but an actual graph, what you're going to have looks almost exactly the same. It's going to be at 3, okay? But this time, because it is including 3, we are going to make like a little bracket, okay? And then, again, we are filling in to the left. Now, why do I do this? Because this, guys, gives me what I need for my interval notation. Notice that it goes all the way to infinity on the left-hand side, so I have in my interval negative infinity. And it includes the 3, that's why we have the bracket there, so it goes from negative 3 to infinity, or negative infinity to 3, and we put the bracket there. Well, how is that any different? Let's look at number 2. We have x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Well, first on the number line, okay, here's our line, here's negative 2. We still have equal to, so we're still going to have a solid dot. And we are going to fill in this time, since it's greater than, to the right. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, for our own benefit, this is still negative 2. We have our bracket going this way because we're going greater than, so we're going to fill in like so. Okay, and we still have our little non-covered arrows. So what does that do for us here? Well, that gives us a bracket. We have -2 to infinity. And remember, infinity is a concept, so it's got to get a parenthesis. It can't get a bracket. Okay. Now, we haven't really done any solving yet, have we? Not yet. We're getting there. Let's take a look at number 4. Number 4 gives us x greater than 7. Okay. What's different about this one? Well, instead of having a closed circle on the 7, what do we have? We have an open circle. And we want greater than. Which way is that going to go? Is it going to go to the right or to the left? Well, hopefully you all know it goes to the right. Okay. Now, if we move down to our secondary graph that helps us come up with our interval notation, because this is a open circle, we have a parenthesis at our 7. Okay, but we still fill in to the right. So what does that give us for our parenthesis? Well, we have 7 to infinity, and again, whenever you have infinity, that always gets a parenthesis. Okay. And let's take a look at number 5. We have -1 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 3. Oh, we're getting a little bit more complicated here now. So now on our number line, we have to show both -1 and 3. So here's -1. Here's 3. It does not include -1, so we have a open circle there. And because of this equal sign right here, we do have a closed circle over here at 3. Now, the x is between these two, so what do we fill in? We just draw a line right in between them. Oops. Okay. So, how does this work on our next number line? Well, that's pretty straightforward. We've got a parenthesis at -1. We've got a bracket at 3. And we're filling in everything in between. Okay. So what do we got? -1, comma 3 with the bracket. Now, I know some of you have seen this different ways, and this middle step probably isn't very familiar to you guys, but it is something that I've found in the past it does actually help some students, so that's why I do it. All right, let's keep going. Now let's go to the basic ones. So for you, it's number 6. So it's 3x minus 10 is greater than 2x plus 19. Well, the first thing you gotta do is you gotta get you gotta compare your x's, right? So let's get all your x's on one side and get all your numbers on the other. So let's subtract 2x. Okay, so we have x minus 10 is greater than 19. Now let's move that 10 to the other side. We have x is greater than 29. That's not too bad, right? So here's our number line. We have a number at 29. What kind of circle we're going to have? Closed or open? I hear you. It's going to be closed. No, it's going to be open. So we have an open circle going to the right because it says greater than. So what does that do for our secondary? Well, I have this, right? So what does that give me? That gives me 29 to infinity. Okay. Let's take a look at number 7 really quick. Negative 3x plus 10 is greater than 37. So we're going to subtract our 10. We're going to have a negative 3x is greater than 27. Now we're going to divide by a negative. Something should be dinging in your heads right now. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, that's right, the very first thing that he wrote down. If I multiply or divide by a negative, I have to switch the inequality. So I have x. Instead of greater than, now it becomes less than, and it becomes negative 9. All right, so how does this look? Well, we have 1 point. It's at negative 9. It is an open circle. We fill in to the left because it's less than, because we had to switch our sign. Okay, so that gives us our little parenthesis going that way. So what do we have? We have negative infinity to negative 9. Guys, I hope this is coming pretty straightforward to you. Like I said, these are basic problems. We're going to get a little bit harder here in a couple minutes. Okay, so let's move on to number 8. We have negative 30 is less than negative 5x minus 10, which is less than 15. All right, so whenever you have something like this, what you want to do is you want to get rid of anything that you have that's in all 3 parts. So here we want to get the x by itself. So we want to get rid of this minus 10. How do we get rid of the minus 10? We're going to add 10. Well, if we add 10 here, we're going to have to add 10 over here and add 10 over here. So what's negative 30 plus 10? That's negative 20 is less than negative 5x, which is less than 25. Now what do you think we're going to do? We're going to take everything and divide it by negative 5, because again, we're trying to get the x by itself. And whatever we do to one part, we have to do to all parts. So negative 20 divided by negative 5 is what? 4. We divide it by a negative, so we have to switch our sign. This is x. This gets switched as well, so it becomes negative 5. Now I know that that's a lot. You're like, oh my gosh, Mr. Drum, how am I going to remember all of it? You'll be okay. Okay, just take it one step at a time. Remember, dividing by a negative, always have to switch. Do the same thing to all 3 parts. So what does that give us? Well, that gives us 2 points on our number line. Now be careful here, because which one's bigger, negative 5 or 4? 4 is, so we're going to put the negative 5 over here. I'm going to put the 4 here. Because these don't have these are not less, these are not these don't have equal signs to them. We have open circles. Okay, and the way I read this is that 4 is bigger than x, and x is bigger than negative 5. So that means that I'm going to that means that x, you can see the x, has to be between what 2 numbers, 4 and negative 5. So we're going to fill in between those 2. Okay. So what do we have? We have a parenthesis here and a parenthesis here, and we have everything in between. So that gives us negative 5, comma 4 is our answer. Everything between any number between negative 5 and 4 will make that inequality true. Okay, Well, what do I do about, let's take a look at number 10. I have 4 less than or equal to negative 3x minus 1 over 2, which is less than or equal to 9. Again, I want to isolate my x, so how do I get rid of everything? Well, I take my 2, and right now it's divided by 2, so what's the opposite of dividing by 2? Multiplying by 2. So I multiply everything by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. If I multiply this whole thing by 2, I get my negative 3x minus 1. And if I multiply the right-hand side by 2, I get 18. Right? What's next? Adding 1. So I get 9 is less than or equal to negative 3x, which is less than or equal to 19. Now what? Well, now I divide by negative 3. Alright, 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. I divided by a negative, so I have to switch my inequality. This is now x finally. Switch this inequality. And this is negative 6 1/3. Alright, so which of these numbers is smaller, negative 6 1/3 or negative 3? Well, hopefully you realize it's negative 6 1/3. So here's negative 6 1/3. Here's negative 3. We have solid circles going on here. Why do we have solid circles going on? Because they actually do have the equal to part, right? So we fill in between. And what happens up here? Instead of parentheses, we now have squares. Okay. So what does that give us? That gives us a negative 6 1/3 and negative 3. Right. Hang in there, guys. We're going to do number 11 next. All right, number 11 was 4x plus 3 is less than 7, or 3x minus 8 is greater than 7. Well, this one's pretty straightforward. It's broken up for you, so just take each one and solve it. So I get minus 3, minus 3. So 4x is less than 4. Divide by 4. X is less than 1. Add 8. 3x is greater than 15. Divide by 3. X is greater than 5. Alright, so remember this is an OR statement, guys, so that means that it can be true either way. Alright, so how do I do x is less than 1? Well, first off, I'm going to draw my line. I've got 1, and I've got 5. This is an open circle, this is an open circle. Now, be careful. This specifically says what? Less than 1. So if this is less than, I am filling in to the left. Okay, so this is going like this to the left. This one says greater than, so if I want to do greater than 5, I have to go to the right. Okay, so what does that look like up above? Well, that's a little bit different. This is a parenthesis this way, parenthesis this way. So how do I write that? Well, I have negative infinity to 1, and I have 5 to infinity. Oops. And I have to put a big U in here. It stands for union. Okay. That way you have that represents that both of those as part of your answer. Okay. Whew. Hanging in there. We're getting there. All right. So now let's move down to the absolute value inequalities. Okay. We did problems number 8 and 11 intentionally. You have a hint that's written out there for you. You need to decide if the inequality is an and or an or problem. Less than is an and problem. Okay? Greater than is an or problem, like number 11. That's what they look like. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, let's do a couple of problems here. Okay. So let's take a look at number 7 on your paper. So we have the absolute value of 3x minus 1 is less than 2. Okay. Now, this is where I'm sort of regretting not dealing with absolute values with you guys, because there are 2 equations here. Okay. This is a less than, which is an and problem. So that means that I have, this is the way that I've always read this, 3x minus 1 is less than 2, and 3x minus 1, notice that I left the stuff that was in the absolute value sign alone. I flip this and change the sign. So 3x minus 1 is greater than negative 2. So how does that get written? Negative 2 is less than 3x minus 1, which is less than 2. Okay, just a couple of things just to say it again, because I know that one I did that a little bit quickly. Whenever you have absolute value, you're going to write it down twice. You're going to write it down just as it is. Okay, so this is just exactly the same without the inequalities, or without the absolute value sign. Then you're going to leave the absolute value sign alone. You're going to flip the inequality, and you're going to change the sign. So this was a positive 2, and it becomes negative 2. Okay? You'll get more of that as we go along. And now this is a problem that you already know. What do? I start off by adding 1. So I get negative 1 is less than 3x, which is less than 3. Divide everything by 3. I get negative 1/3 is less than x less than 1. Okay? So what do I do next? Well, I have my line. I have negative 1/3, and I have positive 1. Open circles, and the x goes between them because it's between them in the inequality. So fill it in like that. And then what do I have? I have parentheses, so that gives me negative 1/3, comma 1. Whew. Interesting problem, huh? Okay. 3 more. We're going to do 3 more, so hang in there. Okay. Let's do number 8. We have 2x plus 1 is greater than 3. So greater than is greater
Mom, if
Greater than is or. Okay, so again, write it down the way you would normally. We have 2x plus 1 is greater than 3. And then what do? 2x plus 1 less than, flip the sign, and then what do? Change the thing. So I now have 2x plus 1 is greater than 3, or 2x plus 1 is less than negative 3. Okay, so subtract 1, you get 2x is greater than 2. Subtract 1, 2x is less than negative 4. Divide by 2, get x is greater than 1. Divide by 2, get x is less than negative 2. Remember, this is still or, so what do I got? I always want to put my smaller number to the left, so I've got negative 2. Got positive 1. Both get open circles. Now, less than negative 2, that goes to the left. Greater than 1 goes to the right. So what do I have? I have my parenthesis that way, parenthesis that way. So I have negative infinity to negative 2. I have 1 to infinity. And what do I put in between? Our friendly neighborhood u. Okay. I'm going to do 2 more. Okay, we're going to do numbers 9 and 11, because number 11 is a little bit tricky, and then that gives you a couple that you can practice on your own. All right, so number 9, we have the absolute value of 5 minus 2 over 3 x is less than 3. All right, first thought, less than, that means it's an and problem. Okay, so what do? I write it down exactly the way it is. I have 5 minus 2 over 3 x is less than 3. I have 5 minus 2 over 3 x is greater than negative 3. So I now have negative 3 is less than 5 minus 2 over 3x. Notice all I did was take this part, this part right here and write it the other way. Okay? And then this, I just keep writing it, is less than 3. So now what do? Well, I've divided by 3 here. Okay? So let's take everything and multiply it by 3. And when I say everything, I mean everything. So 3 times negative 3 is going to be negative 9. 5 times 3 is 15. Negative 2/3 times 3 is negative 2x. And then that's going to be 9. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to subtract 15 from everything. So I get negative 24 is less than negative 2x, which is less than negative 6. Now I'm going to divide by negative 2. So what does that mean? You all should know. This is 12. This is now greater than x, which is greater than 3. All right, so what do? I have 3 and 12. Open circle, open circle. The x is between, so what do? Fill in between. And then I have a parenthesis and a parenthesis in between. So my simple answer is 3, 12 with parentheses. Goodness gracious. Okay. They don't get much more complicated than that, really. So let's do one more. And it's going to be number 11. So I have 10 times the absolute value of 12 minus 2x is less than 200. Okay, so this is still an and problem. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot start writing it. I can't leave this 10 here. I got to get rid of it. So this 10 times this, how do I get rid of it? Divide by 10, and I divide this by 10. Okay. Now, I don't have to divide everything in the middle by 10 because this whole thing is getting divided by 10, kind of like that, because this is multiplication. So these are going to cancel, so I now have 12x, or 12 minus 2x, is less than 20. Now I get to do my fun stuff. 12 minus 2x is less than 20. And how do I write the other one? 12 minus 2x, flip the sign, change the sign. So now I've got 12 minus 2x in between 20 and negative 20. So I have negative 20 is less than 12 minus 2x, which is less than 20. Now we just keep on going. Minus 12, minus 12, minus 12. So I have negative 32 is less than negative 2x, which is less than 8. Go divide by negative 2. So again, what's going to happen? I'm going to get 16. I'm going to have greater than x greater than negative 4. Draw my number line. What's my smaller number, negative 4 or 16? Negative 4. The x is still in between it. Okay, so I'm still going to fill in between. And there's my graph. And what do I have? Parenthesis, parenthesis. Fill it in, so that just means I have from negative 4 to 16. Alright guys, that's it. Long video today. That's why I didn't give you much yesterday. I knew this was going to be a long one, and I didn't want to do that to you right after you did the quiz. So, have a good day. Be prepared for some work for over the weekend.